community building for a greater cause. In the fight against the pandemic to keep its employees safe and protected, Africa's largest telecoms group, MTN, has launched a new campaign to create awareness and to promote the wearing of masks. All this is in support of the global drive to raise consciousness of the importance of masks and its impact on people's safety. I walked through the empty hallways with incoming MTN Group CEO and President Ralph Mupita as he expanded on the hashtag Wear It For Me campaign, reaching out to its 21 African markets. Ralph, quite the safety protocols that you guys have put in place here. I've been coming to this building countless times, speaking to you as the group CFO, but I imagine we're going to get into that discussion a little bit later. But how much of your staff is subject to that procedure entering the building, and how many of your staff are working from home?
Yeah, Fifi, you're absolutely right. Facilities such as this are group head office, and across all our markets, we've had to adapt our office environments. So as you can see, kind of walking in, you'll see that we are practicing the social distancing. You can also see that there are facilities for ensuring hand sanitization, etc. So it does feel like you're coming into an environment that actually feels a little bit like a ghost town. The reality is that we do have staff in the offices and in the field, and that's generally about 20 to 30%. So more broadly across our markets, we have 70 to 80% of our people working from home.
MTN was one of the first companies to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. We saw you donating sanitizers and face masks, zero rating your fees across many platforms. Now you're taking that response further with the launch of this new campaign, Wear It For Me. Tell us more.
Yeah, I mean, on the onset of COVID, which for us is basically around February to early March, we realized that as a company, we needed to do more than just provide services. And we came up with the Yellow Hope initiative, which is really an umbrella set of initiatives, across our people. Firstly, and most importantly, the people who work at MTN. Secondly, our customers and the communities that they operate in. And finally, the business, to make sure that our networks remain robust and reliable for all the communities that we operate in. So within that package, and as I said, we call it the Yellow Hope. We've made our humble contribution. Some of those contributions have really been about providing free SMS. We've provided quite a lot of SMS across our markets, waiving fees on mobile money transactions, zero rating educational sites, and making our contribution there. So what we are launching today as MTN Group is a continuation of that Yellow Hope. But we have decided that for the month of September, we are going to focus our above the line and below the line activities across all our 21 markets on just one message. And that message is about masks and encouraging our customers, the communities more broadly, to wear masks, not just for themselves, but actually for others. And within this campaign, we do talk a lot about wearing it for mothers and mother figures. So for those people who are thinking they're protecting themselves, they need to think about protecting others. So that's what this initiative is all about.
And it's quite well timed, given that now the economy is a lot more open, operating under level 2. There is a concern that perhaps September and the level 2 operations could see a lot more infections coming to the fore. What's MTN's feeling around that?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much across our markets, given that COVID really kicked in probably about end of March into April, and I guess April was the kind of hard lockdown month that we experienced, and then across our markets, including South Africa as well, we started to see that lockdown arrangements, being loosened, so to speak. And as you watch the infection rates across markets, I think what the health experts had predicted was that broadly across MTN's footprint of the 21 odd markets, we will be seeing a peaking of infections between July and September. And we are exactly in that zone where we are seeing the peak, and some markets actually are beginning to come down from those peaks. So given that data set and perspectives from the health experts, our view is that we need to do actually more during this month in particular, because we think mask wearing can make a difference. For sure, the hand sanitizers, the social distancing, and all of that must continue. But we think that this can be actually a coordinated effort across 21 markets and even more, where we can see us taking the fight back against COVID-19.
And of course, a lot of people are talking about the possibility of a second wave of infections as we do enter the month of September, which is also quite a special month for you, given that is when you will be starting in your official capacity as a group president and CEO. Congratulations, by the way.
No, thank you. Thank you very much.
That second wave, though, is that something that concerns you, and perhaps is it also the reason why you are standing behind this latest campaign from MTN encouraging the wearing of masks?
No, for sure, Fifi, we are very concerned about second waves, because what would happen in a second wave is that the response naturally would be to lock down, and the lockdown effects for sure may help on the health front, but actually impacts the economy, quite a lot. And our worries about the economic impacts of lockdown, particularly in our markets where there is very little fiscal and monetary space to support the citizens of our country, by providing them with financial support, that a hard lockdown or a further lockdown will actually hurt the economy, and not just for the near term, but actually more broadly for the longer term. So we are concerned about that. And any initiative that helps to deal with that. Today we're talking about wearing of masks, and we'll keep on talking about that. Is something that we really want to push back against, and actually put some resources MTN to support.
I feel like the viewers are watching this and thinking they're talking about wearing of masks, but neither of them are wearing masks. But of course, we did go through that rigorous screening process in the beginning, and your technology has cleared me, put me in the safe zone, I hope. Ralph, the question then is, the initial response that MTN did start with the zero rating of education sites, for instance, and I know that you are working with the health department also on access with data and making things a lot more affordable. In the event that we do see a second wave coming, and now that we have seen the national state of disaster extended, is there room for MTN to extend some of its initiatives further out into the year?
Yeah, we spoke, with the release of our half-year results that, we had made all this contribution, and rightly so. And we valued it just on about 1.8 billion rand of contribution, from our core services plus donations. And we thought that was the right thing to do, because at the end of the day, we operate within the context of communities and societies. And if those communities and societies are battling, we will ultimately battle. So, you could argue that it is enlightened self-interest for us to be supporting, the various economies and societies that we operate in. And so specifically to your question, if we did see a second wave, we have to help. We can't stand out as an island that is unaffected. Our staff are affected, our customers are affected, the communities we operate in are affected. So we would have to, put out a helping hand.
But on the flip side, in the event that we do see a second wave or a second lockdown, and touch wood, the paper comes from wood, MTN is in the sector, one of the sectors that has benefited from COVID-19 and the lockdowns, with a lot more people working from home, shopping from home, eating from home. The question then becomes, what concerns you from a business point of view about the coronavirus? And I imagine that this is something that is quite high up in your head, because these are questions that you're going to have to answer when you do officially step in the role as CEO.
No, we're very concerned. As I said, we started at the macro level, and if economies are battling and struggling, that ultimately has an impact, to our own staff, the customers that we serve, and society more broadly. So we are concerned about that. You're absolutely right that the sector that we operate is an essential service, and I think in the hierarchy of needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, telecommunications very high up there, next to food, shelter, and I think a few other things, and there you will find telecommunications thereafter. So we understand the gravity and the responsibilities that we have as a company to be able to provide networks that are reliable and resilient. I think, Fifi, you'll agree with me now that sometimes when you have a situation where there is an electricity blackout, the only light that you see is your phone. Yeah. And that's really about the investment that we've made in ensuring that our networks remain resilient and reliable to everybody. So we're putting a lot of investment into that. We've reforecasted that this year across all our 21 markets, we're going to spend probably about 24 billion rand of capex. A good proportion of that is in South Africa, and a good proportion is in Nigeria as our two largest markets. So we're going to continue to invest because we know that the societies we operate in depend on us. The banking infrastructure depends on mobile telecommunications. Pretty much every industry has a connectivity and a dependence to our sector, and therefore we play in that sector and we'll make our contribution. And ultimately, if the economy is struggling and if our customers struggle, we will struggle as well. So it is back to that point that it is in our self-interest, enlightened self-interest, if you want to call it that we make contributions and help societies, more broadly.
In terms of making contributions, there's something that your investors are struggling to understand in light of how COVID-19 is impacting on MTN and the sector as well. Again, I'll repeat myself in the view that they see you in a sweet spot, and there is a lack of understanding in the market, if I can put it that way, as to why that sweetness is not trickling down perhaps a lot more quicker into investor pockets. So perhaps you can just respond to the view that a telecoms company right now should be paying dividends. I mean, is that a justified view or not?
No, I'll answer your question in two components. I mean, the first part is that we are a beneficiary of COVID-19 and what is broadly an acceleration of the digital economy. That for sure is true. I mean, many of the things we are seeing now are things that people envisaged would happen, 5-10 years from today. They're happening now. So there has been, an acceleration that, we are benefiting from or can participate and support our broader societies. And you saw that in our results, and I think you'll see that in the other companies' results. On the point specifically around dividends, I mean, as the board, applied its mind, there were a couple of things that we focused on. The one was our ability to upstream cash from our operating companies. There have been some challenges in a few of the markets given actually the COVID impacts, and in those markets that you see a shortage of foreign currency. So there's very limited ability to repatriate cash and capital. The second was really a consideration around the holdco leverage. The group leverage itself is very comfortable, but we've had about just over $2 billion of debt at the center that we are looking to extinguish over time through proceeds that we get from the asset realization program. And that holdco leverage, which is the measure that we look at the debt at the center, that was impacted by a much weaker rand. And the final consideration was really around COVID uncertainties. COVID is really still uncertain in terms of its economic impacts. And the prudent point was to say, given all these factors, we should skip the interim dividend, even though our liquidity position as a company is very, very strong. And we have a debt maturity profile that is actually well managed. So it was a decision taken based on prudence. And I think the majority of the investors certainly support the decision that we took in the engagements that we've had with them so far.
Ralph, just more on MTN's response to COVID-19 and how it has guided strategy, because you refined that strategy of late and you're calling yourselves a pan-African play. And part of that involves the exit or hanging up on markets like the Middle East. Again, just further clarity on whether it is COVID-19 that has informed this decision that now is the time to hang up on the markets like the Middle East, or if there was something else that did lead the group to recently announce the exit from that region.
The board has been applying its mind over the last 2.5 years about the portfolio. And I think you'll understand that clearly that the portfolio has many components. So we announced actually in March last year that as part of the portfolio review, we were going to look to monetize the investments that we have in e-commerce and our tower investments. And we put various targets to that, and that's been communicated publicly. So that is all underway, and some of the tower assets have been sold off, and we're in the process of looking to carry on with that program, our so-called asset realization program. So that portfolio review, I think is well understood by the market. We then did a further assessment of the portfolio in terms of the markets we're operating in, and realizing also that we have limited resources as MTN, as any organization has. Limited resources on the human side, limited resources on the capital side. And then we also assessed our risk profile. So on the analysis of all those elements, we felt that looking forward, we were best positioned in terms of all our human and financial capital to focus on the African market. A lot of the strategies that we're looking to push out and develop further, particularly around digital services, fintech, digital service. I hope you use the Ayoba app, which is an MTN creation. We felt that that acceleration of digital services was best applied to the African markets, of which we are in 17. So that it wasn't driven actually by COVID. It was driven by a long-term, consistent review of the portfolio, and saying that we believe, looking into the future in the medium term, we are best served to operate on the African continent. Now, I've traveled a lot to our Middle East markets, wonderful people. My best meals sometimes are actually out there, saffron rice out in Tehran, etc. And the people are wonderful. And our decision to, over the medium term, which means the next 3 to 5 years, is to orderly exit those markets, is driven really around the portfolio, allocation of resources, and optimizing returns. I mean, the people and the businesses that we have there are in wonderful, positions. Syria, Yemen, Afghanistan, Iran. So it's nothing to do with the people, but really about, capital allocation and human resource allocation.
Because the virus has caused a lot of companies to rethink a lot about their strategies and pause some planned capital investments and rethink, where best to put capital, as is MTN's case. And I just want to understand how the virus has impacted your plans for Nigeria, particularly the issuance of more shares for the local market there. Has COVID-19 had an impact on that decision?
So in terms of investing in our core markets, we're not pulling back. Actually, we will for sure accelerate. The little we pulled back in terms of our original plans for the year on CapEx was more to do with supply chain disruption that we saw. We buy a lot of equipment out of China, and in the early parts of the year there were some disruptions there, and those disruptions have kind of are well managed now. And the second was the lockdown effects. How does lockdown affect our ability to roll out networks? We have better visibility on that now, and we're pushing ahead, and we will continue to invest in our markets, making sure we have the strongest networks. We talk about second to none networks across our markets. So investors and stakeholders more broadly can rest assured that MTN is not pulling back on investments more generally. Specific to the issue of Nigeria, we remain very committed to our stakeholders, to our customers in Nigeria. We did make a very clear statement of intent that we would look to broaden the ownership of MTN Nigeria. It is, generally the largest company, depending on what day you look at the NSE, it is the largest company. It's a very important company. It's probably 5% of the Nigerian GDP. If you think that the ICT sector is 10, 11% or thereabouts. So in terms of the localization, we committed to that. COVID, to your point, has actually delayed our plans, but we've done an extraordinary amount of preparation for the offer. And soonest COVID abates, we're able to travel to Lagos. I think you'll start seeing us picking up the action. We really would like to make sure that we continue to execute on that intent as soon as practically possible.
And on the flip side of that, COVID-19 has also provided a lot of opportunities for companies. We are seeing a lot of deals being announced in the recent while as a result. And then the question does come to the opportunity that the virus perhaps is providing for MTN, particularly on the continent, and where you are seeing those opportunities on the continent.
No, we see the majority of the opportunities actually in market, in the various markets that we're operating, the 17 odd markets on the African continent. We're seeing opportunities to expand both for consumers and enterprises. And I guess you see that enterprises are having to reconfigure the way they work. Going forward, there's always going to be a cohort of staff that are going to work from home, and others will come into the office. So this empty building that you see today, at some point we're going to get people coming back here, but they're going to be people who are going to be working from home. And enterprises having to invest to be able to do the work from home and work from the head office, so to speak. So we're seeing opportunities on enterprise accelerating more broadly across our markets. We're seeing opportunities also in terms of digital services. So our core business is to provide mobile connectivity, basically voice and data. But going forward, we think that in our markets, which are basically at the early stages of internet adoption still today, that the digital services being provided to all and sundry across our markets is the next major opportunity. Now, we have made good progress already in a couple of those areas. We spoke about mobile money, the fintech opportunity. Very excited about that. We have 38 million subscribers already. So we're a substantial financial organization already as MTN, but we want to accelerate that. 38 is not enough. We want multiples of that as mobile money customers, and broader into insurance and other forms of financial services. And then instant messaging, as I said, we've got Ayoba, 2 million monthly active users. We think we can really push that into tens, 20s, 50 million odd monthly users of our instant messaging app, and bringing the integration of our instant messaging app as well as our mobile money. We want to be the WeChat of Africa, and we are probably the best positioned across all the markets to do exactly that. So to your point, many exciting opportunities, but in taking advantage of opportunities, we want to make sure that all our customers, all the communities we operate in, don't get left behind in the so-called fourth industrial revolution. This digital economy is really for everyone and for all the Africans on this continent, and our colleagues also in the Middle East.
Ralph, when those people, a lot of your staff members do come back to this building, of course, I imagine that it will be at a time when you are firmly entrenched in your new position. And just a parting question on what you're looking forward to the most about being the CEO.
No, I love being working at MTN. We talk internally, and it might not sound as powerful and as missionary as this, but I think there's a bit of a missionary zeal about MTNers. We talk internally about the fact that we believe everybody deserves the benefits of a modern connected life. And if you think about it, whether you're rich or poor, you're light-skinned, you're dark-skinned, you're male, you're female, irrespective of religion, and you work in our markets, the digital economy is the future. And so people get up in the morning, I get up in the morning, really fired up about that every day we're making a contribution to the progress of Africans, to the progress of people in the Middle East. And we're going to craft a strategy and execute a strategy that enables us to meet that vision. And all 20,000 odd MTNers, our boards in the various markets, our stakeholders are going to help us deliver that. And importantly for us, we operate in countries with a license to operate from those markets, and we want to make a contribution to the success of those markets. We think our contribution is a humble contribution, but we think it'll have an immense impact. So I'm looking forward to working with all the MTNers to achieve that belief that is so profoundly held internal to the organization.
Ralph, thanks so much for your time, and I look forward to further conversations in your official capacity as Group President and CEO.
Thank you so much, Fifi. Much appreciated.